Hello, everyone, and welcome to the VeryReasonablePilots podcast. I'm your host, Charles Lung. With me, as always, is my co-host, editor, producer, co-pilot, and navigator, Jacob Cloth. How are you doing today, Jacob? Yeah.
I didn't know I was demoted.
The podcast. You navigate the podcast. We spent like 20 minutes talking about Superman before this, and you were like, you should do a podcast. I could have gone on for another fucking hour.
You probably would have if I didn't say, hey, podcast.
Exactly. Time. You're the navigator. All right, so sometimes I come to this show, and I have an in-depth story, but not really many in-depth characters. And then sometimes I come to the show, and I have in-depth characters, but not really a story, to speak of.
Do you have neither?
I have neither this week. Yeah. It's been a rough week. It's exam time, so I'm busy. So this episode, this pitch kind of got away from me at some point.
Oh my god!
Because I was gonna do a cyberpunk, detective drama, just because that's my comfort zone. But I was like, nah, I've already done that a few too many times, So let me change it up. So, do you want to know the title of this episode?
I bet you don't have one.
I do have a title, actually. It took me a really long time to come up with it. It didn't. Chimp-Punk.
Chimp-Punk.
Right? Chimp-Punk.
Oh my god.
So, this show takes place in a universe post-apocalypse, right? The human world ended, and from that world, a bunch of monkeys, gained sapience and began building up their own world, right? So it's basically this monkey version of the 1970s, right? So we don't have a lot of advanced technology, It's pretty much what they had in the 70s, but it all is all kind of like retrofitted from human technology that the chimps haven't really figured out yet. So that's kind of where we're starting off, So just imagine, big, like New York City, that's where it's set, New York City. But they don't call it New York City, they call it something else. I haven't thought of that yet. But like one of the, some of the skyscrapers are like collapsed in on themselves, right? And there's like, pieces missing and big holes in it. But there's also this society of chimps and apes living there. And they've built, they've kind of built their infrastructure around these collapsed buildings rather than building them up again, Yeah. So you see like Empire State Building has a big hole in it, and it's been like filled up, and there's like vines and not vines, but like wires and like poles and stuff for chimps to swing off of.
Okay.
And we've got a few main characters in the show, but the one that I have put the most effort into his little description, right? I'm just gonna read it to you.
I got an idea for the name of the city real quick.
Okay, what is it?
We could call it NYC or NY or something like that, because they see New York, they see NY everywhere, all over the city, so they assume it's the name. So maybe we could call it Nye.
Oh, I like that. That's good. I like that. See, I think this is one of the episodes that's going to be very collaborative.
Okay.
NYE. Just letting you know.
Nye. They call it Nye.
They call it Nye. City of Nye. Right? All right.
Nye City.
Nye City. And it's me, Keanu Reeves, but I'm an ape. Let's burn this place down.
Reeves. Yep.
All right, Private Vest, Hendrix Odd, a low-life former hero cop living on the fringes of society. Yeah, that's his name.
Of course.
Fringes of society, taking any dirty job that comes his way. Popping pills and smoking cigs like it's going out of style. He hates police and politicians, choosing instead to contract his services out to private citizens, always trying to fuck over a corpse and make a quick buck. Odd as a man on the edge, looking to end it all in a blaze of drug-fueled glory. All right? He's a private vest, right? A private vest is basically a private investigator, right? Or private cop.
Private vest. Ooh.
Yeah, private vest. So we have a book. Book is what like a bookie is basically a private accountant and debt collector. Arnold Schiff cares about one thing and one thing only: money. Living his life as a sober, somber loser with a nice car, Schiff often calls on Odd whenever tracking down runners, but would sell him out in a second if it meant another rung up the capitalist ladder. All right, so that's kind of our main protagonist and our main antagonist, right?
Hendrix Odd and Arnold Schiff.
Yeah.
I like those names.
I think they're
Charlie
fun.
names.
I don't know. I took Arnold Schiff from somewhere. I can't remember where, but whatever. So, our next character, she's a crook, right? That's what they call criminals in this universe.
Oh, really?
Yeah. If you thought Hendrix Odd was a very Charlie name, you're gonna love this. Samantha Neon, a rat living in the streets her whole life, building a career overhearing info and picking pockets, running a small-time gang of thieves. That is, until she gets a huge corpo contract. Right? That I'm just basically setting you up where the story starts, right? Samantha Neon, she's lived in the streets her whole life. You know, she doesn't know anything better. She's not really concerned about corporate or politicians, or really ape rights. That's what they call human rights in this universe. Ape rights.
Ape rights. Because they're apes.
Yeah, because they're apes.
They're not apes, they're chimps.
Yeah, well, not all of them. See, because they're each going to be a different variety of ape, right? So,
damn, it'd really suck if you're a chimp and the other guy's a gorilla.
Well,
he's a fucking silverback, and you're a tiny chimp.
Well, you see, Hendrix Odd is a chimp. Arnold Schiff is a orangutan, and Samantha Neon is a gorilla, right? Because she's meant to be this. She's a little, her character is that of like a street rat.
That's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Her character is that of a street rat, pickpocket, right? But she's like the fucking biggest character in the show. She's fucking huge. She's got a bright pink neon mohawk. She's cool. And then we have two more characters, right? We have this is Richard Time. He's a low-down, dirty corpo rat working his hardest to get every dime he can out of the working ape.
No.
I've just replaced the word man with ape.
Working
and,
ape.
yeah. And then our last character is Songbird, an up-and-coming punk vocalist and songwriter. His name isn't Songbird, sorry. He is a songbird. That's what they call singers in this universe. His name is Hit. Hit.
Hit.
Hit
Let me guess. Wait, let me guess. He's essentially Chimp John Lennon.
Almost, basically. I mean, he's a naive but angry young man with a chip on his shoulder and something to prove. So yeah, kind of. And I have the first episode here right now.
Okay.
That's right. It was right here. And then I have a big thrust of where the series will be going. And then I have some set pieces that we're going to get into, like where we could set up episodes around. So, first episode, Hendrix, he's sitting at his local bar throwing back rock gut like it's his job. He doesn't care. He's drunk. And his bartender friend, right? Haven't given him a name. Let's say his name's Jake Gloth.
Okay, let's call him Billy Joel.
All right. How about Billy Knoll?
Billy Knoll.
So Billy Knoll, the bartender, asks Hendrix to do a favor for him. And Hendrix is initially like, "Oh, go fuck yourself. I don't do favors to nobody. Where's the cash?" But then Billy reminds him of his substantial bar tab, and Hendrix is like, "Fine, I'll do the job. What do you need done?" So the bartender is asking him, "Hey, there's this guy who he comes in here every day, 3 o'clock. He stays for an hour, he has 2 beers, and then he goes home. I've seen him every day here for like 3 years, and he hasn't shown up here in like a week. And I don't know if anything bad's happening, might have just moved or whatever. But, I want you to go just make sure that he's okay. Track him down. I've got his address right here, because he's
I have an idea real quick for that scene.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, but I don't want to get away from it. when Hendrix is like, well, I only do the job for money. Billy should go over to the register, and Hendrix would be like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm just calculating up your tab. He's like, whoa, let's not be irrational here.
Yeah, come on.
He's like, what, you've been drinking 12 drinks a day for the last 15 years? He's like, whoa, let's I'll do the job.
I'll do the job. I don't give a shit. What do you need
done? It'd be funny, he starts getting scared. He's like, shit, I really owe this guy like tons of money.
Like thousands and thousands of ape bucks. Let's call them ape bucks. Let's just call them bucks. He doesn't even, they don't have like nanas. I like that, nanas.
Nanas. They're nanners.
Nanners. We'll have the rednecky characters talk like, hey, you got some nanners?
Got some
and
nanners?
Then I got what you're looking for, honey. You know? All right,
call them nans. Nans. And then the rednecks will call them nanners.
That's good. Nans.
Nans is obscure enough where the audience won't immediately know it's bananas, but once the rednecks call them nanners, they'll be like, it's bananas.
It's bananas, because they're apes. We get it.
All right, so we got this guy who used to get drinks, but now he's gone.
He's been gone for a week, so Hendrix, he sets out to look for him. And there's no, like, cars in this universe. They just swing, because they're fucking monkeys. They're not monkeys, they're chimps. That's actually a very big faux pas. You do not call somebody else a monkey. That's like a slur. You're gonna get your ass kicked if you say you dirty monkey. Because monkeys are sapient in this universe, but they're like a second-class citizen. That they get treated like trash. But Hendrix Odd, being one of these low-life scumbags who lives his life in the fringes of society, he knows lots of monkeys. He hangs out with monkeys. He doesn't mind monkeys. He's one of those guys. And so that ends. That scene ends. He leaves the apartment. He starts swinging around, and we hear like an inner monologue as he's like taking puffs from his cigarette, using his foot because he's a monkey. Chimp. And we just hear like a little bit of narration, a little bit of exposition about this universe, and we don't make it too explicit, but we're like, yeah, post-apocalypse, monkeys took over. This is Planet of the Apes, but if they were, it was the 70s instead of whatever time period Planet of the Apes took place in. Modern day, sort of. 70s. 60s is when it took place. Not when it took place, when the movie was made and released. So he gets to his apartment, right? Knock, knock, knock. Nobody's there. Knock, knock, knock. Nobody's there. I've already come all this way. Hendrix is like rationalizing himself because he doesn't like to think that he cares, but he does care, He doesn't want to see people dead. He has this like veneer of cynical, nihilism. But deep down, he's like, I want people to be alive. I care if somebody's dead, So he's like, I already came all this way. Might as well, be thorough. And he kicks down the door,
Yeah.
Then we see this customer. He's been murdered. Dun, dun,
no.
Dun.
How has he been murdered? What does it look like?
He's been had his throat slit.
Oh, there's blood everywhere.
Blood everywhere. And this guy has a super nice apartment. Really nice.
Abnormally nice for the area, or like
abnormally nice for the area, but not abnormally nice for corpos, for people who work in these corporations. So this guy, for some reason, has been living in a shitty area of the city, but is a corp making tons of cash, tons of nanas, doing something. We don't know what. And, Hendrix, being the good vest that he is, he starts looking through, making sure not to get his finger or footprints on anything. Just, looking through, trying to find some evidence as to why this guy was murdered. And he eventually discovers this, like, series of messages. And they're discussing a project. We're not exactly sure what this project is, but the guy who's been murdered, we'll give him a name, Jeffrey Dahmer. He's been he's been asking some ethical questions about the project that they're doing and working on, and he's been assured by his bosses that there's no ethical concerns whatsoever. No apes are harmed in the production of this product, right? Whatever. And Hendrix Odd, knowing how loathsome corporates and politicians can be, he's like, oh, something bad was going on here, you know? And so that starts on Hendrix's, kind of arc for this episode, which is finding the killer, right? He's got to find the killer by the end of the episode, because that's where kind of the stories meet. And so the Crook, aka Samantha, she's working out of a van, recruiting young people for a corpo testing trial. So she's basically driving around, what did we decide it was called?
Nye.
Nye, yeah. She's driving around Nye. She's like a cute young gorilla. She's, talking to people who are living out on the streets, and she's like, yeah, I used to be like one of you, living in the streets, being a street rat. But, thanks to these lovely people over at Ape Corp, they gave me a second chance, and now they're giving one to you too. You can come work on this, amazing new project. And they're all like, yeah, sure. She gives them some food, some nanas, that sort of thing. And she gets paid at the end of the day. We see her leaving the van, getting paid, and she's kind of like, she's been doing this for a while, but not like a super long time. And she begins to ask questions. She's like, so what's happening with these, what's going to happen to these apes? And the person driving the van, the corpo, guy driving the van who's wearing like all black, scary ass looking dude, looks down, he points to her fistful of nanas that she's holding, and he's like, you see that? See that big wad of cash that you got in your hand? That's what happens when you don't ask questions. He takes out a gun from his pocket and holds it over the side of the car door and says, see that? That's what happens when you do ask questions.
Oh.
Keep your mouth shut. And then he puts his gun away and drives off very suddenly. She's like, ooh, that's... So, she begins like, oh, this is bad. And maybe we can see Hendrix Odd in the background, being an ape, swinging a bow, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I said no cars exist in this universe. That was a lie. There are cars, but they're just not, they're kind of like luxury items because it's so much easier to get around as an ape than it is as a human, that they're not, there's no public transportation, right? You just fucking swing. So cars are really only reserved for corporate and political, powers.
Yeah.
And so she's like kind of, I'm feeling kind of, emotionally, disconnected about this, and like getting a little, my soul is beginning to hurt. I'll go to my favorite bar, drown my sorrows, right?
Oh, same bar as the other one.
Cut to a few weeks later, or a few weeks earlier.
Oh.
Our lovely boy Hit has just booked a new gig at a small time bar where he's going to be playing a punk show. He's very excited. He's been told that there's going to be some high level corporate, music industry people, monkeys there, apes, and so he's like, I got to get my A game. So he starts. And this is like a 10-minute thing of him like going around and he starts collecting his bandmates, and we see them in various levels of, depravity. Maybe he pulls one out of church, he pulls the other one out of an orgy, he pulls the third one out of a drug den. They start coming together and practicing, we get some ape singing. And that will be fun. Ape singing. They have a cool Beatles. Punk band. Yeah. And so they begin practicing, and then cut to, the practice hard cut to them playing at this bar, right? Music's blaring, crowds loving it, and throughout this episode, I should say that we have been following Hendrix Odd as he's been, piecing together things. He's been, going around to places, talking to, maybe he goes to the reception at Ape Corp and he's like, hey, do you know this person? Talking about the guy who's dead. And they're like, no, we've never, we don't know how he got an employee ID card. That guy's never worked here before. Huh. Yeah. Yeah. So there's all this, sort of investigative stuff that happens. And then he gets a picture of the guy. He's broken into the surveillance cameras that, what was the dead guy's, like, a building had, right?
Yeah.
He's broken into the security cameras, he's taken the footage, and he's, like, figured out, okay, this is the guy that killed him, Don't know anything about him, I just know this is the guy. I'm going to go to my favorite bar and talk to my favorite bartender, Billy Noel. And we're gonna, he's gonna let me know if there's any, info on this guy.
Yeah.
And so, all three of if you could probably tell that all three of these stories are coming together to meet at this bar. So, Samantha is in the crowd. She's enjoying the music, trying not to think about what happened today. Hit is on the stage, playing his heart out, doing really well. The crowd's loving it. Hendrix Odd walks in and he sees a very familiar looking, familiar shaped gentleman standing in the corner wearing all black. And he's like, odd. He sits down at the bar and he starts talking with Billy, and he shows him the picture and he's like, let's wait. Billy holds up the picture, sees the guy, and it's like, oh, the exact same builds, scribbles, his facial features onto the black mask that the guy in the picture is wearing. And it's like, it's him. Hendrix Odd starts, gets into a fist fight with this guy, right? He's like, you're a murderer, I'm gonna take you down. And the crook, Samantha, notices that that's the guy who's been driving her van all day. And she sees, before Hendrix Odd does, that he's going for something in his jacket. She shouts, watch out, he's got a gun. And Hendrix Odd, with the slight bit of a warning from Samantha, is able to, throw a bottle at his head, knock the gun out of his hand, and then beat the shit out of him. Rips the, mask off of his face. Wait, no, he's not got a mask on his face. Rips the glasses off his face and says, why'd you kill him? Why'd you do it? What did he know? And just as as they think they're gonna get answers, Samantha has come over now and she's looking at they're both interrogating him. And just as he thinks that they're gonna get some answers, the guy that he's grabbed bites down on his cyanide capsule he has in his tooth and starts like foaming at the mouth. And he's still on the stage, and he's like kind of like a little, shell-shocked from just watching a man die.
I assume everyone screamed and ran out. There's a bit of chaos. Probably a gunshot went into the ceiling, right?
Yeah, something like that. A lot of people ran out, And then he sees that, and he's like, ugh. And then he sees in the corner there's some corpo executives, music executives, who seemed unfazed by this, death. And, they kind of are giving him the side eye, like, keep playing, boy. Like, you keep playing. And so he just keeps playing, and it brings all the people back into the bar. They get the body out, and people are loving the music. And at the end of this episode, Hendrix Odd and Samantha decide to work together to figure out what the hell is going on, why Billy Joel's customer is dead, what they've been doing with these people, in the van, that sort of thing. And at the end of the episode, Hit is given a brand new corpo contract. He doesn't, but the thing is, he's making punk music. Like, it hasn't dawned on him that punk music is meant to be anti-establishment, and he's joining the establishment. Like, that's what I mean when he's, like, kind of naive and has a chip on his shoulder. He's like, whatever. And so that's how the first episode ends, you know? So So here's where it goes from here. So Hendrix and Samantha, they team up to figure out what's going on. And they are eventually, they discover a little too much, and they begin to be pursued by one Arnold Schiff.
Arnold Schiff.
Who's been contracted by the Corpos to kill some boys. Specifically, which Corpo? Richard Time.
He's an accountant.
He's an accountant and debt collector.
So he's a tough guy.
Yeah, he's a very tough guy. He's like a scary dude, but he does all the numbers. That's kind of one job in this universe.
He's like Ben Affleck in The Accountant.
He's exactly like Ben Affleck in The Accountant.
He knows numbers.
He knows numbers and he kills people. He does guns and he was in Kung Fu. Do you know there's a scene in that movie where Ben Affleck is doing Kung Fu on like the top of a temple?
I can't imagine Ben Affleck doing Kung Fu.
It wasn't Ben. It's kid version of Ben Affleck. He's been taken to a Tibetan mountain, temple to learn Kung Fu because his dad is like, you have autism, and so you have to learn how to do Kung Fu. This is 100%. This is what happens in that movie. It's so fucking weird. Yeah. So this is kind of like they're being pursued by Arnold Schiff, and he's been given a lot more resources by Richard Time, the Corpo. He's been given like more people, more resources, and he's like, you have to track this guy down, fucking kill him, He's like, yeah, I'll do that. I don't care.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of like they're doing in the investigating, and they're also dealing with the fact that they're being hunted by Arnold. And the big reveal, this happens, not halfway through the series. It happens more than halfway through the series, like 3/4 of the way through the series, but it's still like a reveal. The apes, that is to say the corporate apes, have discovered, because they built their, what do you call it? Their headquarters on top of a secretive, scientific experiment place in NYC.
Yeah.
And they've discovered some old human tech that they've been tinkering with. And I'm not exactly sure what to make the tech right now. I have it down as they've been working on teleportation, just because it's weird. Like they've been trying to, because they've found a teleportation prototype and they've been like testing it and trying to deal with it, but it just keeps turning all these monkeys into like goo. He's like, or these apes into goo, and he's like, fuck, it's not working, And so they figure that out, and they were like, oh my god, we have to tell everyone. But it's like, nobody will listen to us because I'm a drug-addled former cop and you're just some street rat, They have no way to get their message out. And at the same time, these stories are congruent. He climbs the ladder of success, only to realize that he's become exactly what he hates the most. He's alienated all of his friends. He only cares about money. He doesn't care about the music anymore. He's had his message toned down and like torn away from him and altered by these music executives. And so he starts writing and, releasing these songs that are very anti-establishment, anti-capitalism, anti-corpo. And he gets fired immediately. They're like, we have enough of your sound that we could just AI produce, some music. They wouldn't call it AI. We could just,
they have enough of his hits that they'll just play it on the radio forever. They'll just beat this dead horse till it stops spending that money. Or they have a billion other kids like him that they could just pick up at any time,
Yeah, and he didn't read his contracts because of course not. And so that's like,
so
I have none of the rights.
He can't make music by himself or something like that under his name anymore. He's gotta have a new identity now.
And so this is the end of Act 2 slump, where all the characters are at their lowest, right? Hendrix and Samantha have discovered the horrible truth of what they've been doing with all these apes. Yeah. And it's fucked them up, and they're all sad and drunk. And Hit has been, he's lost everything he thought he cared about, and realizes that the only thing he truly cares about, he gave away. you know? And so they all again meet at this bar by just happenstance and decide to work together. So Hendrix and Samantha get evidence, and Hit comes up with this fucking banger new song, right?
Yeah.
And he begins playing, and it's like at this, you know, sets up this huge not stadium, but it's like in the middle of the city, and this like drawing this huge crowd, and he's just playing, you know, this protest song against these corpses. And like meanwhile, Hendrix and Samantha are just like displaying all of the evidence and the pictures of what's been happening to these apes, you know, on the screens, or like, projecting them, right? And so it's like there's no way that they could run away from this, you know? And then eventually this you know, show turns into a riot, and they burn down Ape Corp. They raze it to the ground.
No.
But then Hendrix Odd goes back to his office, and he knows city never changes. Apes never change.
That's the end of the show?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we could come up with another ending.
They discovered teleportation, and they burned down Ape Corp because of a song.
They burned down Ape Corp because of all the ape rights violations. And they didn't discover teleportation. They kept fucking it up and turning these apes into goo.
Why will the city never change when, in fact, it has? Because they just burned down Ape Corp. He has to have. If the city never changes, he'd have to have something like the next day that says, like, you know, Ape Corp's competitor, Chimp-Punk, has bought all their shares and stuff.
Yeah, we'll say that, like, he'll turn on the TV and he'll see that Chimp-Punk has, you know, become, you know, the highest grossing, you know, corporation on the planet, and it's, you know, has decided to take up where their competitors have left off and continue experimentation with teleportation, but just off of New Apes of America, you know, the soil. Yeah. Right? And he's like, it'll never change. Nothing I can do to stop it. Mm-hmm. But then we'll leave enough, you know, room for a sequel series if people like these characters, if people connect with Hendrix Odd and Samantha Neon.
Okay, because we've kind of got like some sort of racial elements between all the chimps. Maybe instead of teleportation, we're doing like CRISPR, like genetic modification.
Oh yeah, that's good. Right? I like that.
Because then we've got some sort of like biological thing, and because we're doing that. Here's something I thought of while you were talking was because humans were the population or like the civilization beforehand, and they still have like their visages left behind, like there's still pictures of humans. Yeah. Maybe the corpos shave.
That's cool. That's a good idea. Yeah. That like, they shave their like sort of heads.
like a well, probably not their heads, right? Because we have hair mostly.
Mostly. Some of us do. You know, the greatest businessman in the world doesn't have hair.
That's true. So maybe they maybe like, you know, the lower rank corpos, they'll like trim, and the higher you go up the ladder, the less hair you have, and like whoever the top, you know,
top chimp, he's got
Bezos,
you know, no hair
or whatever.
Is
completely bald.
He's a completely hairless ape, and it's but he's, you know. But when you see a hairless ape, like, if you Google hairless ape right now, they always are, like, huge. They've got, like, 6-packs. And so I think that he should have, like, a 6-pack. Be, like, fucking scary as shit. You know, like Jeff Bezos. Ape Bezos is big and scary.
Yeah, that could be good.
Yeah.
And so the genetic modification thing, and maybe to connect it, they're gonna clone. I'm just throwing spitball in here. They're gonna the reason they're gonna get rid of Hit, right, is because they're just gonna clone him, and they'll have a new one, right? I don't know. I'm just shooting random ideas.
I think that's good. You know, maybe that's their plan. You know, but that they don't tell him that, but we can be the audience can know that they're planning on cloning him using the CRISPR technology that they've used, and maybe they have like. We show it's a CRISPR, you know, thing, and they've scratched out a few letters, you know, so it spells something else. Like chimp. No, something else. something cleverer than that.
And so I feel like the concert is kind of a Deus Ex Machina. So maybe the concert and the riot is the distraction, right?
Yeah.
And really, it's Hendrix and
Samantha and her old crew,
going in to try to, maybe like the crew is some of the people that she, and sent for the experiments, right? They freed them earlier. Now they got this group together of gangsters, who are breaking into the labs, and they're gonna destroy the research and stuff.
Yeah, that'd be good.
And it could be cool. And then at the end, so we have you still have your message of nothing ever changes. We could have Hendrix. He's staring at the rubble, and he walks away, and
Samantha and the surviving gangsters are celebrating because they see this as a victory. But Hendrix, he knows that, give it a day, maybe a week, maybe a month, there'll be another corporation right where that place, fell.
Well, in the middle of the show, maybe you could have another, the Chimp Incorporated or something like that, right? They help out our group, right? They pay them or something because they want to take out, Chimp. What's the name of it? Chimp Corp?
Yeah, something like that.
Whatever the names are, doesn't matter. But we have a rival company that maybe provides some information or gives some money to them or provides some muscle.
And Hendrix is maybe Hendrix
takes it because he just wants it, to he doesn't like these guys, right? But he wants the monies that he can get
stop
the job done.
This evil now, and then he'll worry about it later. He'll worry about Ape Inc. Chimp Inc. for
Chimp Inc.
another day.
Yeah.
And then Ape Corp right now.
So we have the introduction of this other corporation who's there and helping our protagonist. And at the end of the show, we have Hendrix watching the rubble, and then the Chimp Inc. CEO comes up, and he's like, "Hey, you looking at my new property?" And he's like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah, I just bought the land. We're gonna start excavating tomorrow." It's it's sort of implied that he's gonna sift through the wreckage and find out, what they're researching.
Yeah, get all that tech. Yeah. And maybe we can have a little USB that has all the information that Hendrix took.
Oh, okay. That Hendrix has.
That Hendrix has, and then he just he's thinking about giving it to Samantha, maybe thinking about destroying it. And he just puts it in his jacket pocket, pats it, walks off.
Away. Doesn't destroy it. Is he gonna sell it? Is he all about the money? We'll never know.
Is he? We don't know. Maybe if there's a season 2. And now I have some of the set pieces that I would have. So the first set piece would be Monkey Town. Monkey Town is a small sub-community that exists inside of the city, but is basically it's the sewers, it's the slums, it's everything is way smaller because monkeys are smaller, right? Because I think that would be funny if their houses are just tiny and it's Samantha has no chance of getting inside of any of their houses, and Hendrix whenever he goes and he can get inside of some of the bigger ones, but he has to really crouch down and get in there, and he can't stay for a while or else it'll give him a back problem. Maybe that's where he gets some of the information.
Yeah.
And my next set piece is kind of the it's also my final set piece. It's kind of the most fucked up thing in the show, but it's also the most satirical. It's the most of a joke. And so they have the Human Museum, right? Where they have all of they have a museum dedicated to humanity's successes and failures, and they have a big history, and it's also a lot of it's incorrect because they don't really know because it's a dystopia and they came up after humanity fell. And then you go into the final room, and it's and these are the final living humans, and they open a door, and there's all these huge glass tubes that have what do you call it? They have spinal cords, they have nervous systems, they have eyeballs, and they have brains, and that's it. You know? No skin, no mouth, no anything. It's just spinal cord, brain, eyeballs. And they're like, wait, they're alive in there? It's like, yeah, we've been keeping them alive, you know? Just because we think it's interesting. And they're like, can they talk? It's like, yeah. Do you want to hear what they have to say? Sure. Presses a button on the thing, and just like it's all screaming. They're all just screaming in horrible agony. Just like, you know, endless screaming. And they're like, you can turn it off now. You just turn it off. Yeah. All right. Great. Thanks for the tour of the Human Museum. I'm gonna go vomit and cry. And they leave. But yeah, I like the idea of a human museum. And they have like 6 human beings remaining, and it's just their eyeballs, brains, and spinal cords.
Yeah.
Floating in gelatin. That would be fun. But yeah, that's the show. Chimp-Punk.
I like it. It's a fun show.
Yeah. Fun show. This pitch went better than I expected it to TBH. But yeah, thank you everyone for listening. Do you have anything else to say, Jacob?
Oh, what's the song that plays at the end?
Yeah, I'm googling it. I'm googling a bunch of monkey songs because there's a song that goes, "I'm a monkey man." There's also Space Monkey. We could end each episode with a monkey theme song or a chimp theme song. Okay, we have Monkey Wrench by the Foo Fighters, Monkey's Gone to Heaven by Pixies, Monkey Man by the Rolling Stones. Yeah, that's how the show ends, with Monkey Man by the Rolling Stones, I think.
Okay.
So I like that song. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you everyone for listening to the Very Reasonable Pilots podcast. I've been your host, Charles. Along with me has always been my co-host, editor, producer, co-pilot, gunner, and navigator, Jacob Cloth. If you like what you heard here and you want to hear more, please give us a like, a follow, subscribe. Tell your friends, tell your family. You can find us on Spotify, on Pinecast, on pretty much everywhere that does podcasts. We have a YouTube. You can go there and listen to it there. Even if you don't like listening to podcasts on YouTube, can you just go there and give it a like? That would be nice.
Aw.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. You're welcome. Thank you, everyone, and have a good day. Or night.
Or not.
Or not.
All
Fuck
right.
you, maybe.
Bye.
Bye.